Well, the Eagles seemingly love AndreSwift so much they're already working on a contract extension to try to keep the running back in Philadelphia for the long term. Jonathan Gannon, that whole situation, well, it's taken another weird turn, this time involving Vic Fangio, and Jacob Sports really believes the Eagles are going to go ahead and get a linebacker. I'll give you the best available ones on the free agent market. I'm Thomas Mott. This is the Thomas Mott Show. What's up, guys? Thomas Mott here. Welcome to the Thomas Mott Show on a Wednesday. Can you believe just how much the Eagles are in love with AndreSwift? We're going to start with that story and then move into some of the Jonathan Gannon drama here. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler said this just yesterday about the idea of working on a contract extension for the new, hopefully, future superstar running back in Philadelphia. Quote, Howie Roseman was ultra aggressive because they wanted, this guy wanted out of Detroit once they drafted running back Jahmyr Gibbs, number 12 overall. He figured, hey, I'm a focal point. He made that clear to the team. I don't want to play here anymore. Let's work out a trade. So the Lions got to work, but they really didn't even need to work out because Howie Roseman made that call early on. They were aggressive. Miami, I was told, was involved to some extent, but the Eagles pushed it over the top Saturday morning. And I was told Philly is even open to doing like a short-term extension to try to keep him for multiple years because he's in a contract year. This is a player who's going to bet on himself, most likely play the 1 year out and hit free agency. Very talented former second-round pick, just been injured, so he's been unable to be on the field enough to showcase that. That's the plan right now, end quote. So this is a quick update on AndreSwift for those of you guys wondering if it could be a long-term deal coming. It seems like they are at least talking about it, but Swift understands what's in front of him. He has the ultimate chance to showcase himself on a silver platter, essentially, and be like, hey, 1 year deal with the best offense in football, on the best offensive line in football, with the best quarterback in football, at least in the NFC, maybe in the AFC as well. I'm going to go for over 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, and then you guys are going to beg me to stay, and I might take an even bigger deal somewhere else. Remember, Miles Sanders, behind this same exact offensive line, got $6 million a year for 3 or 4 years. So shout out to AndreSwift. Thumbs up for him, possibly getting a new deal now, but at least being very, very excited to be in the Eagle offense. Okay. Over here to the Jonathan Gannon situation, which continues to take some very weird turns. As you know, Gannon talked to the Cardinals before he was legally allowed during the illegal tampering phase, and was the Cardinals, of course, had to do this weird trade for swapping third-round draft picks with Philadelphia. But there's a new report from AndreSwift, which is even more dramatic. Look at this tweet, and then the quote tweet by Kendall Beck. First, the bottom one. Quote, Dolphins DC Vic Fangio likely would have stayed with the Eagles permanently had it not been for the tampering incident with the Cardinals and Jonathan Gannon per AndreSwift. Schefter said it impacted a lot of people's lives. Okay. Kendall Beck has a very good quote tweet here. This explains the prolonged hiring process at defensive coordinator. Eagles were anticipating Fangio to be their guy, but Gannon's inability to focus on the Super Bowl forced them to look somewhere else. Gannon hurt this organization more than he helped, and it's showing, end quote. So if you didn't like Jonathan Gannon before, now you, of course, you're still not going to like him because this is going to ruin your chances of getting Vic Fangio. Now, it is worth noting that Vic Fangio was the guy brought in to help counsel this defense and help get the defense prepared for Patrick Mahomes that then got shredded by Patrick Mahomes' arm and offense in the second half of the Super Bowl. Now, that doesn't mean Fangio's a bad defensive coordinator. The Dolphins made him the highest paid defensive coordinator in the National Football League, but it is very interesting that Philadelphia would have gone with Fangio like we were talking about, and I think even talked about it on the show, but the prolonged process mean that Fangio kind of had to back out, and that's why they ended up on Desai. So the idea that Desai was their first choice is not true. It was Fangio. Now we get to see a Fangio disciple in Sean Desai, hopefully be able to go ahead and power through with what is a very, very talented defense. What do you guys think of the whole Gannon situation? Are you tired of listening or hearing about it? Are you tired of Vic Fangio or of Gannon in general? You expect the Eagles to crush the Cardinals and get a big boo ovation from the Eagle fans? I might even go to that game in Philadelphia this year. Let me know what you guys think down below. Okay, some draft stuff here really quickly, just because people are still raving about what the Eagles were able to do with their 2023 draft class. SB Nation, they said this, quote, the entire NFL screwed up by letting the Eagles win the draft so easily. The Eagles made 7 picks across the entire draft. Every single player was on our big board, the top 200 prospects in this class. That just shouldn't happen. But it gets even more ludicrous from there. If you compare the Eagles class against the board, the team's average pick was 75. No, not only did they get 7 of the best 200 players, they actually fell inside the top 75. That is absolutely unheard of. It's impossibly good. Yes, we're comparing to our big board metric here, but we trust our talent evaluation. Sure, you can argue that Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith helped wreck the curve, but by comparison, the Texans took C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson Jr. in the first round, took 2 players who weren't in the top 200 at all. And if we intentionally break the math and count those players at a value of 200, the Texans still averaged 103 on the board. And they had one of the next best classes after Philadelphia, end quote. Now, you know all of this. You know the Eagles dominated the NFL draft. Howie Roseman had the draft of his life, at least it seems. We'll see what happens on the football field. But it is fun to see everybody else at least mention the whole idea that the Eagles look pretty darn good following the NFL draft. What do you guys think? Is this the best draft, at least in terms of Eagle draft class in your lifetime? It's pretty darn up there, in my opinion. The Mailata draft, where they got some other stars as well, is up there, but very, very good draft for Philadelphia. Okay, over to the Jacob Media tweet here. They continue on about the idea of adding a linebacker. We talked about this yesterday. Now, Jimmy Kemsky on Jacob Sports said this, quote, "It's a stone cold lock. They're going to add a linebacker at some point," end quote. Now, I don't know if he actually has sources on that or he's just assuming they're not going to leave the linebacker spot untouched, despite the fact that we forget Nakobe Dean and Nicholas Morrow and Davion Taylor and Sean Bradley. They all exist, right? There's 4 linebackers. They're battling essentially for 1.5 to 2 spots, depending on what base defense you run. But I figured I'd give you some options who are actual free agents and not Patrick Queen or Isaiah Simmons you'd have to trade for on the market right now. And the free agent outlook via Sport Track is pretty good, right? I mean, look at these linebackers. Now, they're not perfect. They all have flaws, but you recognize some names. Leonard Floyd. How about Zach Cunningham from Tennessee? Deion Jones. Crazy, Deion Jones is only 28 years old. Miles Jack. How about Marcus Golden? Melvin Ingram. Now, he's very old, but still not necessarily the linebacker spot you would want. But, again, names that we understand. Corey Littleton, Kyle Van Noy, Anthony Barr, Nick Vigil, Rayshawn Evans. We talked about him a bunch. No longer in Atlanta, formerly of the Tennessee Titans. Quan Alexander, Jared Davis, Jordan Jenkins. I mean, there's a bunch of names here if you wanted to infuse some competition. Now, what my guess would be is Philadelphia is going to wait till all the OTAs go ahead and conclude. They get these linebackers inside the room, most notably Nicholas Morrow, maybe even early training camp before they make a final decision. Because if they like Morrow, who led the Bears in tackles last year, they don't need to go get anybody. But it really depends on if they like him or not. Dean is going to play. I'd be shocked if Dean doesn't play. He flashed enough and very limited playing time just this past year to kind of prove that he's ready to take the next step. Don't know if he's going to be perfect at it, but still, we all feel very good about Nakobe Dean. The wild card is Davion Taylor, who was starting for a couple of games 2 years ago and then had a second half season-ending injury, essentially, and didn't really see much of him this past season. So you have options. If you like one, let me know who you would take. A lot of Miles Jack love on Twitter. Miles Jack has never really lived up to what he was supposed to be. Remember, Pittsburgh signed him this past offseason, and he didn't do anything, and they didn't re-sign him since. So give me a name. Let me know what you guys think overall. Okay, let's go ahead and end with a fun little tweet here from Fox Sports PR. I know we don't like looking back at Super Bowl 57. However, a lot of people watched it, and it is good for football. Listen to this, quote, "Today's Nielsen restated the viewership of Fox Sports' presentation of the Super Bowl 57 as 115.1 million viewers, the most watched Super Bowl in history. This revision is the product of the thorough review by Nielsen that revealed irregularities in the encoding that enables Nielsen to measure TV viewing as well as issues with the out-of-home measurement of Super Bowl 57. That would make it the most watched Super Bowl in history. The previous was 2015 and up 2% from last year's most watched game between the Los Angeles Rams and the Cincinnati Bengals at 112.3 million. So I know we don't like thinking back to that Super Bowl, but it is worth noting it was one for the ages, and it was so good that more people watched it than anybody else in the history of the NFL. So I guess thumbs up for that. I hope this year, Super Bowl 58, when Philadelphia is in that game, it'll be even more people, and this time they'll get to see the Eagles win. So, what are you going to do? Okay, no Wednesday Link live tonight. Josh Davis of the Philly Special Show is in Hawaii on a vacation with his wife, and so we will not be doing a Wednesday Link live. We did a bunch of live shows over the past couple of weeks. We'll pick it back up next Wednesday and continue the trend there, so stay tuned and subscribe for that. I'm Thomas Mott, having fun on a Wednesday. This has been The Thomas Mott Show.